Okay. Let me know when I need to
You're
start.
good.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our first all-employee meeting in 10 years, if you can believe it. It's going to be virtual, but we will still have a great opportunity to connect as a team today. As with any virtual meeting, we might have a few technical issues, so please be patient and stick with us. We will move along as quickly as we can. If you do have trouble staying connected to the meeting, please be sure to take advantage of the call-in option so you can hear the presentations even if you might not be able to see them. All participants are going to be muted during this live session, but that does not mean you can't engage with us. We have a Q&A function, and we're going to actually have two formal Q&A sessions during this meeting. The first will occur after Jimmy Bramblett's presentation, and the second will come after our state conservationist panel. You can just type in your queries and we'll read them to the presenters. Keith Boyd is serving as your moderator for today, so I'm going to turn the program over to Keith to officially kick off the meeting for us.
Well, good morning, everybody. It's kind of exciting day today to all of us get together like this. I'm real pleased with the agenda. It looks really good. I'm coming to you live today from the land between the Rappahannock and the York Rivers on a recently installed grade stabilization structure, or drop structure we call it. So it's kind of, I hope y'all can see that in the background. I'm kind of proud of that work that we do here. But I'm not going to hold things up. I have the honor and the privilege of introducing our newest state conservationist of Virginia, Dr. Edwin Martinez Martinez. I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Keith, and good morning, everyone. What a pleasure to have the opportunity to have our first virtual meeting, especially being a new state conservationist here in the state. I really appreciate that everybody joined the meeting. I hope that you take this time aside to really enjoy the agenda that was put together with a lot of great speakers, a lot of motivational information, and more than anything, having some of our key partners involved in this agenda. So I encourage you to stay engaged in our meeting, ask questions through the chat as needed. And we're really fortunate to work for such an amazing agency. I've been with the agency for about 15 years, and you will see some recognitions of years of length work with the agency for some of our team members. And what a pleasure to have the opportunity to work here in Virginia among you and for you as a state conservationist. So with that said, I know Mr. James Tillman, our regional conservationist for the Northeast, has another commitment soon. I'm going to allow the floor for him to provide some opening comments. Mr. Tillman.
Wow, thanks so much, Dr. Martinez. Folks, this is definitely an exciting opportunity to be able to sit here and visit with all the Virginia NRCS employees and everyone, getting on board and really getting and digging in. And Keith, I just listened to you starting off, really got me excited. Folks, these are with the opportunities we have here in Virginia and across the agency and the things you're doing right there at home. So let me first thank all of you for the work you're doing out there. I know we're going through a pandemic and COVID, but I think about, Keith, think about the commitment that each of you have and how you're digging in and getting more conservation practices on the ground, working with producers, even more than prior years. I think I'll quote to you the words of Acting Chief Cosby is, and that the NRCS employees are really getting the work done and making things happen. Folks, the work you're doing right here at home, whether it's working with the McGee family there in Louisa, Virginia, helping them, Dana and Ross, helping them get the cattle operation to move forward, helping them grow their herd, do those kinds of things from a small farm, a farm that they've owned, been their family for over 100 years. And that local office, that Soil and Water Conservation District, Edwin, is making things happen there locally. Kilby, your leadership, the work that you're doing. I can go on and on about the work that's taking place there in Virginia. What I want you to know is the work that we have, the opportunities we have, is so tremendous. Well, if we're looking at 25 employees, she's made a commitment the other day. Edwin, appreciate your input and helping to make these kinds of things happen. But he's going to go ahead and provide funding for all those 1,525 employees and put that in the state conservation's budget. So those staff that you're bringing on board, Edwin, we're going to put those funds in your state, and help you continue to grow Virginia and make things happen. Folks, I see that you have some partners on board. I think Secretary of Ag, Bettina, she'll be visiting with you. What a tremendous partnership. What some tremendous things each of you are doing with the Virginia Commonwealth. Reaching out, working on water conservation. Is move Henrico County, who's trying to expand their operation, who's trying to grow their operation, on those kinds of things. It's going to last. It's going to take them to the next generation and make things happen. Jackie, the work you're doing, David, the work you're doing, they're in the state office helping to make things happen. So, Edwin, let me leave you with this. Shortly, that we're going to be taking on some more actions. I think that stations, Edwin, some of those you're pushing up, and more local authority there with state conservation. I think about the work that Ross, that you're doing as a soil conservation technician. I think about my career, and in terms of that position being the backbone of this agency. I think about me, myself, not being where I am today without that strong soil conservation technician I had to train me, showed me the ropes, and showed me how to make a commitment and do those kinds of things. The work that you're doing, Dana, there at the District Conservation, helping to make things happen all across Virginia, folks. Well, let me say this at the end. Keep up the good work. The work that you're doing is being recognized and being noted. And you're making impact. Whatever your staff need, as Terry Cosby mentioned, is let us know. I'm here to help you, provide you the resources to make things happen. Edwin, so excited to have you on board. So excited about your commitment, your leadership, you strategic, visiting with me when you have concern about maybe some things we're doing up here and helping to make things happen. Folks, take care, keep up the good work, and continue to do the good things you're doing there in Virginia. Take care.
Thank you, Mr. Tillman. I really appreciate that you took some time from your busy agenda to join us this morning and to provide some words of encouragement. Certainly, we have an amazing team here in Virginia, and I'm really excited, really fortunate to be here working as a state conservationist and providing leadership here. So thanks for your support, for your leadership, and for being a good mentor as well. Appreciate it. Next, we have the length of service recognition. We have multiple team members within our team that has 40, 35, 20, 15, 10, 5 years of working experience and service with the agency. As you may know, as I mentioned as well earlier, this is an amazing agency. When I look back and I look at the numbers and years of service, and I'm working hand in hand with David Chris, for example, here in the state office, since day one as I started in here, David had 40 years with the agency, and I worked with him frequently as I started in here, and I see his same motivation. I didn't know he had 40 years of experience or 40 years of service with the agency, but what a pleasure I have to work alongside with all of you for 40, 30, 20, 15 years. For the individuals that are in the 5-10 year range, hopefully your career and your experience with NRCS is as valuable as it was for me. Moving from one state to another one, or from one location to another one, to make the best of your career enhancement opportunities. Challenges are always ahead of us, but as you have seen, this challenge for a technical agency that we're facing allows to grow in many ways, including working closely with partners and including inventing how we would move forward with training and opportunities for such a training technical agency as NRCS. As Mr. Tillman mentioned, we have to continue to do what we do best, and it's conservation, working hand in hand with landowners. So I'm really proud of all of our team members, and I want to congratulate all the team members on this list. I'm not going to mention all of them because of the time that we have for the meeting, but certainly really appreciate the work that you do on a daily basis, your commitment for the agency, for the landowners that we work hand in hand, for working with partners hand in hand, and for making the best of your career opportunities and the best of agriculture, conservation in the state of Virginia. So thank you so much for your years of service. Next, we want to have a recognition for the ABCD Awards. So it's really important that we mention, we highlight some of these individuals that were recently recognized as part of the ABCD Awards. Few team members in here is Mike Combs, the double duty DC for conducting that work. The Area 2 Emerson Kirby, serving AutoCAD Guru, and that's really critical, especially for doing engineering work and designs. The Area 3, in Area 3, Dennis Thompson, the to-go guy, and it's really critical to have individuals like that you can go and ask questions or request assistance as needed. In Area 1, we have Wayne Showalter and a fleet maintenance champion, just keeping the fleet ongoing within the state. As you know, we do ABC award recognitions through the year. It's really important you highlight any of the team members that would be good to recognize as part of this program that has been ongoing in Virginia. Thank you, and thanks for everything you have done. Next. Now we're going to have about 60 seconds for each individual team member that is new within the agency. We're going to start with Arelis, and you're going to have 60 seconds to tell us a little bit about yourself. The floor is yours. Barbara, do you know if Arelis is unmuted?
Just checking that now, okay?
Let's move to the next one, and then we come back to Arelis. So the next one is Jeremy Evans. Jeremy. All right. So we might be having some issues with our new team members being able to mute. Could you confirm that, Barbara? Otherwise, I will go ahead and do the introduction myself so that we can continue moving forward with the agenda. Please let me know.
We can
Yes.
unmute. Go ahead and do their introduction.
All right. So go back to Arelis. Arelis is our newest, one of our newest employees. She's an area resource conservationist in the Harrisonburg area office. She's coming from Indiana. And we're really happy and excited to have Arelis as part of the team. She's also from Puerto Rico. Next. All right, Jeremy Evans, he's a district conservationist in Farmville, so Area 3, been with us since October 13, 2020, and he's coming to us, he was a student trainee in the Northampton and Johnson counties from North Carolina. So Jeremy, welcome on board. Next. Our next team member is Shannon Willis, and she is a program specialist in Farmville. Started in October 2020. And she's, previous to this, she was a program manager, an Air Team volunteer for operations administration in Texas. So she's coming to Virginia from Texas. Welcome to the team, Shannon. Next. Next, we have Alan McKnight, and he's a soil conservationist in Harrisonburg, Area 1, been with us since February, so almost close to a month. And he, before being here in Virginia, he was Mississippi Forestry Commission. He was working for the Mississippi Forestry Commission during the summer 2019-2020. He also went to school in to Mississippi State University. Welcome on board, Adam. All right, next we have our Samantha Peterson, and she's a soil conservationist in Chapman, Area 3. She started also in February 1st, and she was a graduate assistant research in Kentucky. So before that, she also worked in Tennessee. So Samantha, welcome to our team and welcome to Virginia. Next. Our next employee is Austin Hunt. And Austin is at the state office. He's a state economist here in Richmond, Virginia. He's going to be working under the ecological sciences team. He started on February 1st. And he previous to his current position, he was a senior research associate in Hanover Research. He also is a Michigan State University alumni. Go White, go Green, Spartan. Welcome to Virginia and welcome to our team. Next. All right, so now I have the pleasure and honor to introduce our next speaker. Secretary.
Evan,
Yep.
I don't believe she's on yet. She had another introduction to make at a function and was going to be joining us around her scheduled time. We're actually a little early. So if there's some other comments you'd like to make, maybe we can do that and we'll work behind the scenes to get her on.
Oh, perfect. Well, thanks for letting me know. And we're running, it's 9:20, so we're moving right along. So we'll do introductions for Bettina in a couple of minutes. I would like just to go back to the main meeting motivation, or the motivation behind putting this meeting together. Just expand a little bit about that, and also expand a little bit about the great opportunity of working here in Virginia as a state conservationist. As you may know, we have a really busy agenda, and I'm going to take the opportunity now that we have some time to discuss some of these agenda items so that we're all on the same page. I really encourage you to, I know we all do and love to do multitasking, including myself. I'm guilty of that, trying to do many things at the same time, but I would really encourage you to take today, since we started this meeting all the way until finished, to dedicate your time to these sessions. There was a lot of thought and effort in putting this meeting together, so I will take the opportunity and recognize our planning committee led by Barbara did an outstanding job working hand in hand with me and with the other partners and other NRCS team members to make this happen. It's really important and really critical. We're going to have next in a few minutes our Secretary Bettina Ring, and that's going to be a really critical topic that I wanted to have an opportunity to discuss, is economic impact on agriculture and forestry conservation in Virginia, so that we can highlight the importance of what we do as conservationists in the state. We do a lot of work, and as you may know, a lot of the conservation practices, implementations, the effect that they have within the landscape, within the financial scenarios, working with landowners, the economic impact that it has, environmental impact that it has, and other factors. But it's also important to understand the general impact of ecosystem services and values that all the work that we do, from technical assistance to conservation practice implementation and financial assistance, to our state. So Secretary Ring will be highlighting some of that information, and really happy for that opportunity. Then we're going to have a few partners here from the state, and we will be hearing from them later on. Sustainable Chesapeake Bay and the Nature Conservancy, they will be joining us to provide a little bit of information on some of the work that they have done. And if you were able to join the recent technical committee that we had, I try to always invite our partners to be able to provide updates and just highlight some of those great conservation efforts that they're doing. So that's really important. Then we're going to have a wellness presentation by Jeremy, Virginia Cooperative Extension. This is a really exciting presentation that we're looking forward. We were able to participate in another meeting, and Jeremy did an outstanding job. And I worked with Barbara to make sure that we could get him on our agenda. Hopefully you will enjoy that session. There's going to be a conservation knowledge challenge, and Barbara may have mentioned at the beginning of the meeting. We're really excited to see how that turns out. Then we're going to have at 12 o'clock, we're going to have a resume and job interview preparation tips. So I wanted to have this opportunity. We have a lot of new employees, and some employees are looking forward to enhance their careers in Virginia or in other states. So I wanted to make sure that we have an opportunity for them to listen to some of these tips on resume building and also on interviews. I invited also Jimmy Bramlett. He's the Deputy Chief for Programs. We're going to hear from him later today in the afternoon at 12:30. And Jimmy and I worked back in Michigan when I was an Assistant State Conservationist for Field Operations in Northern Michigan. We had some meetings regarding the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative, and we met working with kind of a dual team, Michigan, Wisconsin together. And then when I moved to the national office, I was working under his team as well as the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative program manager. So I'm really happy to have him. He has been all over with through his career with NRCS. He was a state conservationist in Wisconsin, if you have read his bio. So there's a lot of great things that Jimmy's going to be sharing with us later today. I have the pleasure also to bring on board a few state conservationists for a panel. So that's going to be at 1 p.m. I'm really excited. I'm really looking forward to that. I have worked with all of these state conservationists in different roles, with Casey and Tom Morgan from Delaware and Connecticut. I worked with them when I was acting state conservationist in Maine. So I'm really happy that they were able to join us. And then I worked with Emily Fife when I was completing the agency leadership training in DC. So that was we built a great relationship, and we have been state conservationist, me for 6 months, and she has been over a year and a half, I think, on her position, and we have communicated back and forth. And Jerry from Indiana, we worked together when I was the program manager in the national office. So all these individuals have a good connection to the work that I have done in the past, and I have worked with them. I'm really hoping that you can make the best of their advice and those sessions. Then we're going to have Farm Bill program rollout, Farm Bill programs highlights of 2020. Patrick is going to be doing that for us here. I'm really excited just to showcase everything that has been done through the past year and what is ahead of us. We're going to get some civil rights updates. And then after that, closing at about 3 o'clock this afternoon. So Barbara, if there's any other announcements that you would like to make, feel free to do that now. And I will wait until Secretary Ring joins us to do the introduction, and thank you.
Thanks, Edwin. We are still watching for Bettina to join us. One option that we thought we might take advantage of is to just have a quick break while we're waiting for her and trying to get her online. So, you know, we still have done a good job staying on track. So if everybody will just hang tight till we can get her on, we're thinking that might be the best option. She should be trying to log in the next few minutes.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. As moderator, I just thought I would chime in. If you have the option of putting on a headset, it might help out with some of the audio. Um, I know some of you are breaking up a little bit, so if you have the option to put on a headset and if you're speaking, it would really, I think it would help. Thank you.
Thank you, Keith.
I'm gonna chime in here. I guess we probably have a few people still on. There's a question for Dr. Martinez. What is one opportunity you see for Virginia to improve in conservation delivery or mission results? If Dr. Martinez is not on here now, we'll that's something maybe he can address later. But again, what is one opportunity you see for Virginia to improve in conservation delivery or mission results?
And Keith, I was a step away from my computer. 1 second. We're trying to make sure that Secretary Ring can join the call. So 1 second.
Yes, patience
morning.
is a virtue for sure.
Good morning. I'm in the call.
Good morning. Is that you, Secretary Ring?
It is. Good morning.
Oh, good morning and welcome. We're really happy to have you, and I'm glad that you were able to join the call. So,
Thanks.
yes, thanks to you. I think if everybody's ready, I'm gonna do the intro for your session, and then we go from there.
All right. Sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you, and thanks for joining, and thanks everybody for your patience. We would like to welcome to our all employee meetings this morning the Secretary of Agriculture and Forestry, Secretary Bettina Ring. We're really happy to have the opportunity to have Secretary Ring join us this morning to talk about the economic impact of agriculture and forestry conservation in Virginia. I had the pleasure and opportunity to meet Secretary Ring the third week on the job when I started here as a state conservationist in Virginia during the Smith Creek event. And since then we have been connected. And I'm really happy and fortunate to have the opportunity to work along great conservation partners and leaders such as you, Secretary Ring. So with that, the floor is yours, and we really appreciate the opportunity for having you as part of our agenda today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Martinez. It's such an honor to be able to work with you. We're very excited, and it was nice to be able to give you that warm welcome to Virginia that first week that you were on board, but you've hit the ground running, and we're just delighted to have you here and look forward to what the future holds, working in partnership with you. I hope everyone can hear me okay this morning. I apologize that I'm not on virtually with you, and I'm only on by phone. It's you know, it's with technology, it's such a challenge. We've certainly had a challenging year, and just yesterday I was on a Microsoft Teams a call and meeting with no issues, and this morning was on a Zoom meeting and sort of having to jump from that one to this one, and we just never know when we're going to have these challenges. But I appreciate you all being patient. And apologize again that we're not able to interact in the same way that I had hoped. But I really appreciate having this opportunity to visit with you today. And I'm just very excited to be included in your meeting. You're a tremendous partner for us here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And I've worked in partnership with NRCS since the beginning of my career as a young forester with the Department of Forestry. I worked in various capacities with the agency, but NRCS was a key partner along the way. And when I returned as state forester, it was great to see how that relationship had only continued to deepen with the department. And I will talk a little bit more about that during my remarks. We really couldn't do the work that we're doing without all of you. And it really takes all of us to be able to meet our collective missions, if you will. We all bring certain strengths to the table, and I think that's what's unique about our partnership. But when you look at our secretariat, for example, when you look at our agencies, and then you look across the Commonwealth of Virginia with other secretariats and agencies, what we're trying to do to meet our missions in land conservation, water quality protection, food security, economic development, we do all of that by working in collaboration with you. I just jumped on from another call, and it was the second day the second part of an event called the Governor Summit on Equitable Collaboration. Some of you may have participated last week, and it has been really exciting to be able to talk about the principles of equitable collaboration and how we can apply these in our work. And so last week, the governor provided a welcome to that summit, and our Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion introduced our new One Virginia plan. We featured numerous case studies to really talk about how we could use these principles moving forward. And I think what's nice about the work that you do across the Commonwealth, we see that in action every day. And so Kathy Holm joined us last week, participated as a panelist in the Virginia Waste Solutions Forum case study. And this is a really impressive partnership between federal and state governments, the agricultural industry, and nonprofit organizations. And it was, a challenging project and an effort that wouldn't have been possible without NRCS's leadership. Also, as mentioned, the Smith Creek Watershed Collaborative, it was great to just be a part of your celebration, that 10th anniversary, and to look back at all of the many organizations, over 20 organizations that were collaborating on that project, and your leadership was instrumental in that. Here in Virginia, we're so fortunate because agriculture is our #1 industry. We're very proud of that. We have a long history. Obviously, with over 400 years here, we have many learnings over that period of time as well. And then we know that our indigenous people were farming and stewarding the land long before the Europeans arrived. So we try to always think about that, learn from that, and to think about how we're best moving forward. But if you look at the industry here in Virginia, on the commercial side, we provided each year, the industry is providing $91 billion annually and about 436,000 jobs, contributing to the economy. When you add forestry in there, it's $91 billion. And when you add tourism in there, it even increases it more, which is our second largest industry. So ag #1, forestry the third largest industry, $91 billion combined. Within our secretariat, we have 3 agencies that I think you all are very familiar with 2 of them because you work hand in hand with them. And that's the Department of Forestry. Rob Farrell is our state forester there. The Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, and our Ag Commissioner, Dr. Jewel Bernal, as you probably have recently heard, has been nominated to serve as the Deputy Secretary of USDA. I'm sorry, was there a question? Hopefully you can hear me okay. I heard some background noise. Yes. And so with Dr. Jewel Bernal, we're very, very excited about her being able.
I think you may have accidentally been muted. Could you try calling back in again? Please bear with us while we take care of this technical issue. Accidental muting.
Hello?
Hello, Secretary Ring.
Yes.
Thanks for joining back, and we apologize. I think there was some technical difficulties, and I'm glad that you joined back. Please continue.
So I was just speaking to the fact that I'm very excited that our current Ag Commissioner, Dr. Jewel Bernat, has been nominated by President Biden to be serving as the Deputy Secretary of USDA. So many of you have worked with Jewel over the years in various capacities. She has a strong extension background. She was FSA director in Virginia under the Obama administration. And we're just thrilled that she's going to be serving in this leadership role and look forward to working with her in her new capacity. She has not been confirmed yet, but that will hopefully happen soon. And our loss and your gain, but we're going to continue to work together and look forward to what the future holds under her leadership. And then we, of course, have the Racing Commission under our secretariat. We have 3 buckets of work that we focus on. That's rural economic development, forest and farmland retention, and food security. And all 3 of these are very interconnected. And knowing that we do have 2 of Virginia's largest industries, they play a huge role in our quality of life here in Virginia. And we know that forest and farmland protection, conservation is crucial to sustaining a strong economy. And I think our 2 agencies, our secretariats, and I say agencies, I often fall back into my state forester role, but I think we truly recognize that you can protect the environment while growing a strong economy and that you can support our local communities, our farmers, and our forest landowners. And I think, again, sort of that multiple and deep collaboration, being able to address economic challenges, environmental challenges, social challenges, is really what makes us strong. So I'd like to speak to just a few examples, and I do want to be respectful of the time this morning because I know we had some snafus with me joining, and so I'll try to keep an eye on the time as I move forward because you have a very strong agenda today. You're going to be hearing from some wonderful speakers, and I just want to give you some things to think about, and again, mostly to say thank you today for all that you do. So when I look at the work that we do day in, day out, under rural economic development, we have this wonderful tool that we refer to as the APHID grant program. And the Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services administers that program, but it touches on ag and forestry. And we funded so many projects since its inception in 2012. And it was actually established because of Route 11 ships in the Shenandoah Valley and Woodstock. They wanted to move to Woodstock, expand, and they were falling through the cracks with our other economic development tools. We have accomplished so much since 2012, and in our current administration, we've announced more projects than previous administrations. So we always have a little fun with former Secretary Haymore and kind of talking about that. We just continue to strengthen, grow the program, diversify the program. And just this week, we had the governor join us for the announcement for one of 3 grants. And that was with Southside Virginia Fruit and Vegetable Producers Association. And this is a group of small and minority-owned farmers working collectively to aggregate and market produce. It's really helping them increase their markets, expand their markets, and to increase the value of the produce that they have. And we were at Archland Farm in Charlotte County. We know Southside's been hit so hard by the storms, and it was a really special day to be there, a beautiful day outside with blue sky finally. And we learned about and were able to visit the hoop houses that they had, which were built thanks to your cost share. They talked about what an important partner NRCS is, and it was nice to hear that. The first APHID project I was able to announce was in Dinwiddie County on the line between Dinwiddie and Nottoway, and that was for Coley Drinkwater, and looking at their dairy farm there, where they're 5th generation, and they've had many challenges with that dairy farm. The daughter, Coley, went away to college, came back home along with her brother and his wife, who graduated from Virginia Tech in animal science, and they're helping to change the business model there with their farm by adding a creamery. And what they've been able to accomplish there has just been tremendous. And again, NRCS has been a strong partner with them. We know they've had some challenges, but they've really had some real, I think, silver linings during the pandemic that will carry them forward and only expand their business. But it was wonderful to be able to be there, to see their grandparents and Coley's daughter, who was sitting on her husband's lap at the time, knowing that those grandparents could feel confident that the next generation had a chance, if you will. Her grandfather has since passed away, and I'll remember that moment for a long time. But again, that wouldn't be possible without all of us working together and bringing all the tools that we have in the toolbox to support our farmers and producers and forest landowners. And what's really unique about this project and this grant program is that it requires sourcing 30% of products from Virginia. Many of the recipients actually are sourcing 100%, and we're working hand in hand with local government. They're providing a match, and the funds actually go to them in partnership with these private businesses. Another one of our priorities, forest and farmland retention, and this is where land conservation comes in, our water quality protection efforts, again, all the work that we do hand in hand with you. We want to make sure that we can keep land intact, that we can keep it in farmland and forest land, and that we can keep it in the family when the family so chooses. We have numerous century farm owners and forest owners across Virginia, and we know that they have to have viable businesses to be able to pass that down from one generation to the next. We have to make sure that the toolbox gets larger and larger, that we have financial incentives, we have tax incentives, that we have technical assistance, and that our agencies have the capacity to provide that technical assistance to our farmers and producers, and that we continue to have that collaboration between our agencies. We want to make sure that we have a seamless delivery of our services whenever possible. And we know, again, that there's some great examples across the state of land conservation. And I've spent most of my career in forestry and land conservation. I've been very passionate about agriculture. And so it's such an honor to be able to serve in this role where I get to do both. And we have counties like Clark County that's protected, like 23% of the land in that county, again, using tools to make sure that they keep the farms intact. Fauquier County has really taken advantage of our PDR program, and we're able to match that with your federal funding, the ACE program and other programs to protect more farmland in Fauquier and across the state. And we just announced our 100th easement a little over a year ago. And we know the Department of Forestry also uses conservation easements, and they hold over 190 working forestry easements across the state. We're very pleased that we're able to work hand in hand with you through your technical committee, being able to think about the challenges that we have, being able to advise each other's agencies, being able to work together with local working groups as well. And we appreciate all the training that you provide, not only to our agency employees across the state, but to many of our partners and our stakeholders. And we know that with nutrient management plans and other plans that we want to get in place, that training is essential and that we need to have more capacity across the state. You all work very closely with the districts, and they're a huge partner, all of us, in making sure we deliver ag BMPs, that we're doing all that we can to protect soil health and water quality, and that we're delivering on the programs that the Farm Bill makes possible. And I really can't thank you enough for the recent partnership that allows us to really recapture those practices that landowners, farmers have put in place for a long time, and we haven't been able to get credit for that. And that has made a huge difference. And so thank you for being willing to be flexible, and we know that that was not an easy change for you all. So whether it's, installing livestock exclusion fencing along streams, implementing nutrient management plans, planting riparian buffers or cover crops, we leverage our capacity, we leverage state and federal funding, again, to make sure that our landowners and our farmers have what they need to support them in their stewardship. I hope that you all can still hear me. I hear a little background noise, but hopefully you can still hear me right now.
Yes, we're able to. Thank you for checking.
Super. And I just want to point out a few more things before I close. I know it was nice to be able to come back to the Department of Forestry as state forester and to look at that relationship and how we've continued to strengthen it. And the fact that we have a liaison position in place with the Department of Forestry. I don't know if Todd Groh is on today, but Todd has really enjoyed serving in this role, and it's allowed us to create efficiencies and, again, to be able to leverage the strengths that we all bring to the table and to work through any challenges that crop up along the way in the delivery of our services. You all have provided much support through your RCPP program, and I remember being a part of that as we looked at the first proposal that we put in related to the reforestation of timberlands program and what we've been able to do with reforestation. And NRCS, again, was very flexible, listened, and we were able to be successful in putting that proposal in, getting it funded, and it was so successful that you extended it for an additional 12 months. The SIG grants that you provide really not force us, but support us, I think, in advancing more technologies and research and really trying to align our research priorities and outreach priorities. And I believe it's such a win-win-win with SIG grants that can be challenging sometimes to be successful in getting those, very competitive, that can make a huge difference. We have more opportunities in the future when we look at soil health, when we look at climate and how we'll be working together on that. As we think about land conservation and working across landscapes, the Nature Conservancy is a great partner for both of our organizations with our Healthy Forest Reserve program that we worked on with them, their program, and with the Working Forest for Wildlife project. We've been able to bring more funding to Southwest Virginia to be able to work across state lines into Kentucky and Tennessee and to protect really very important ecosystems, and to be able to put the largest conservation easement in place that we've ever held in Virginia, that any agency has, and that's with the Department of Forestry holding that easement in Russell County in partnership with the Nature Conservancy. We, shortly after I came on board as secretary, working with the Black Family Land Trust and NRCS, we signed an agreement to do more to provide better outreach to minority landowners and small producers across the state. And we've done a lot to address air property issues, working hand in hand with the Black Family Land Trust. And you all have been a partner with that in the Washington office and here in Virginia. So thank you for that. And we have our new shared stewardship agreement that hopefully we'll be having a ceremonial bill signing for in short order. But that's going to be really critical as we work with the U.S. Forest Service, with NRCS, and with the Department of Forestry and others to really make more happen on the ground, and to recognize that we can work collectively on invasive species, forest health issues, water quality protection, and the many challenges we have, and kind of blur those boundaries, if you will. And then just in closing, I would like to briefly speak to our work in food, in addressing food insecurity. Our food insecure families, the numbers have increased drastically during the pandemic. They were already high. And we take that work very seriously. And we wouldn't be able to do that without our partners at USDA. The programs that we've been able to leverage working with our food bank partners during this pandemic, it's just been tremendous, the flexibility and us all having all hands on deck, if you will. We recently released the Virginia Roadmap to End Hunger in Virginia, and that came out of the Children's Cabinet, our work with the First Lady and Governor Northam, to make sure that all people, all children, have access to healthy, nutritious foods, and that they are safe in their schools, and that we're investing in them more. We have much more work to do, but that really lays out a very bold roadmap, bold strategies for us. And again, we wouldn't be able to provide healthy, nutritious foods for all people in Virginia if it wasn't for the work NRCS does. And we take great pride in the fact that we are feeding the world, and we have to remember that sometimes we have people in our backyard that are going hungry. And so we're putting new programs in place to address food deserts, to do more with urban agriculture, to make sure that we're supporting our farmers markets, and that we're helping our farmers who donate food to the food banks to offset some of the transportation costs that they have, some of the infrastructure that they need to be successful. We have tremendous programs out there, and really the work that gets done, and you know, Mr. Martinez and I work together and will continue to work together at the state level. But really so much of what happens is right there at the local level, how you all work hand in hand to make things happen day in and day out. I'd like to thank Don Yancey for his work at Sweetbriar. There's some great things happening with the Sustainability Center there. And what they've been able to do, establishing an ag leadership program for women, establishing a greenhouse, and now they have a CSA that they're providing produce to faculty, to staff, to the local community, to the Monica Nation Food Pantry and their partners there, establishing pollinator gardens and beehives, et cetera. And Don Yancey wrote the conservation plan for Sweetbriar and has been a partner from the beginning. we have a great future, I think, with Virginia Tech, with Virginia State University, with Sweetbriar and other universities that are really advancing technology. We have new students, students that are really pushing all of us, those of us that have been in this business for a while, to think differently, to really use new tools, technology on all levels, from drones to computers and to virtual meetings. And so we need to continue to look to the future, to look to those young leaders. I think it provides hope for the future as well. So just in closing, I want to say that we take great pride again in the fact that we feed the world. And also in the Southeast, we're the world's wood basket. We're part of, really providing those many wood products that are needed across the world. And that takes investment at the local level, at the state level, at the national level. And often we invest in our highways, we invest in gray infrastructure, but we haven't been investing in green infrastructure the way we need to. I think we have a real opportunity now to change that, to be at the table as we move forward and ensure that we're looking at taking a holistic approach as it relates to that. I feel good about what we've accomplished together. And I think the future is really bright. I know we have many challenges right now as we come out of the pandemic, hopefully soon, as we rebuild our economy, as we continue to protect our environment and have the resources that we need to do the work, the good work that all of our agencies are doing. But I know that we have a bright future ahead. And I just thank you again for all that you do, for having me be part of this today. Again, I'm very sorry that we had some technical difficulties this morning. I wish that I could be with you in person, and I look forward to the day that we can all be back together in person for these employee meetings. But never hesitate to reach out to me, to any of our agencies if you need anything. We're here to work hand in hand with you moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Ring. We really appreciate the time you took to join us this morning, and really appreciative of, as a new state conservationist, having you join our first all employee meetings here in Virginia. There's a lot of things that have been done in collaboration in the past, and there's way more that are coming in the near future. We're really hoping to continue our collaboration with those partners that you mentioned, including conservation districts and others within the state. And we're also looking forward to hopefully soon be able to join each other in person and exchange success stories within the state. And more important, just continue to collaborate and work as a team. Virginia is an amazing state. I've been here for about 6 months. And I've been living in multiple locations within the nation, and Virginia has it all. It's my second home now. I'm really blessed to be here. I appreciate the work that you do, the leadership that you provide, and the motivation that you provided to our team members here this morning via your presentation. So we're here to help. Anything that you may need from me or our team members in Virginia, we will be more than happy to work, and we will continue our collaboration and partnership efforts to the best of our abilities. So you have a good day, and really appreciate you joining this morning. Thank you.
Thank you. Best of luck with your meeting.
Thank you. Keith, the floor is yours.
Thank you, sir. Okay, folks, we're going to move on through the agenda now. We're going to move into the Virginia Conservation Partnership Showcase. We've got some really valuable partners that are with us, joining us today, and I'm going to turn it over to them in just a second. But we have Christian Hughes Evans, who founded Sustainable Chesapeake in 2012. Many of y'all have worked directly with Miss Evans. She's been instrumental in helping us, and I know on the Northern Neck and Middle Peninsula with some of our nutrient management efforts. So we're really pleased to have Miss Evans with us. And then later we'll have Ronald Lambert he's a land protection specialist with the Nature Conservancy. And we have several projects in partnerships with the Nature Conservancy across Virginia, but we'll have Ronald with us today. So anyway, I'm going to turn it over to Kristen.
Good morning. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, you're good. We can hear you.
Okay, no
Okay,
echo?
no echo?
You sound great.
Great. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you all
Thank you
so
all
much for
so much
inviting
for
me.
inviting me.
And just so you know, I'm hearing an echo for some reason. So, and it's really hard to follow Secretary Ring. But thank you for the opportunity to talk to you all today. So I guess can you start my slide presentation? Barbara, are you there?
Barbara, are you there?
There's a terrible echo going on. And I'm hearing my voice several seconds after I talk. So
Can we ask everyone to mute themselves if they're not speaking? If we do that here, we might lose Kristen. Okay, let's see. Is that any better? We need everyone muted. Kristen, you want to try again?
Sure. Am I still echoing?
Afraid so.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, that's not your fault. Let's see what else we can figure out.
If you have any suggestions, just let me know.
Kristen, can you try and mute do you have a phone next to your laptop?
I actually signed off my laptop, but it might work. Is it working now?
I hear her fine. Do you think it's fine? Can you try and say it just a little bit more? You sounded fine.
Yep. So I was going to talk about lessons learned from our RCTP projects.
On my side, it's good. Anybody else?
I'm getting an echo.
Do we want to do another test?
Do you want to try hanging up and dialing back in and see if it just gets a different connection?
How does this sound, by the way?
Tried muting all.
You know what? I'll hang up and call back in.
Okay.
Barbara, this is Ronald. I was just going to see if I was able as well.
You're also echoing. And I don't know.
Folks, can you hear me all right?
I can hear you good. How does anybody else hear you? Anybody else? Can you type in the comments if there's an echo still?
Sounded good.
Okay, let's roll with this. Kristen, your slide's up and the floor is yours.
Thank you. And just stop me if we still have an echo. Okay, you can go to the next slide. And I'll try to speed up to catch us up to time. Every day of this pandemic, I've been thinking to myself, I can't believe we're still having these issues. So Keith talked a little bit about sustainable Chesapeake. Just doing a sound check. I think I got muted earlier.
Yeah, I tried that and it's
Are we still having the echo? Should I keep going?
One second, Kate. I asked Dominique to take a look at the computer, see if there's any of the computers at office. It's important the presenter doesn't have the phone and the computer audio both at the same time because it will create the echo.
Folks, can you hear me all right?
I can hear you, but it sounds like I'm the only one who can hear you well.
And you're not echoing. But I can hear echo of myself.
Well, Keith here. To me, it's all a big echo. And my voice is echoing back to me as well.
Yeah. Do you guys want to move on to the next part of the agenda?
I think that I'm echoing as well. Yeah, that's Ronald. He's got an echo that I'm hearing too. This is a test from your moderator. How do I sound? I still have an echo. I hear myself back going back.
I still hear you fine, Keith.
You can hear me fine?
Indeed, I can.
Okay, well, I hear my voice coming back a few seconds after I speak, so it's like a little delay in the system. Kristen, can you give us a voice check? How about Ronald? Can you give us a voice check?
Yeah. Can you hear me echoing?
Yes, you're still echoing.
Okay, so how many people are actually getting an echo? And if you're not getting an echo, then it could be individual users in their computers. If you want to send me a chat at the same time, I'm going to go back to my desk and check your audio settings when I get on your computer. Send me a chat directly if you're getting an echo. If you're not getting an echo, let's go ahead and continue with it. Everybody, please keep on mute until it's until you need to talk, and then you can unmute yourself. Correct? Okay. You don't have an option. Okay, great. Well, let me go ahead and hit at least a couple people. I'm going to go back to my desk. This is Dominic McCann. Send me a chat message, and I'm going to share your screen with you even during this, and we'll check your audio settings.
Keith, should I go ahead?
Well, she can stand to do it.
Yeah, let's go ahead and just try and keep moving forward, and we'll make the best of what we can.
I'm so sorry if there's an echo. I can still actually hear one a little bit. How about we go to slide 3?
Yes, let's do another break to sort this.
Okay. So we have two regional conservation partnership projects, and we've helped several other groups secure a grant the NRCS. And as you all may know, regional partnership program is strange program in the sense that partners secure money, and then NRCS does most, not all of the work to put out. So it's a program like that I've ever heard of before. So we've learned a lot about these projects, what to do and what not to do, and have been very willing to share that information. The bottom line is that we want to bring as much money as possible into the Chesapeake Bay watershed. Before I go to the next slide, let me just tell you we have our two projects focus on animal agriculture, specifically expanding adopted nutrient management plans. And then for crop nutrition, we're focusing on soil health and expanding adoption of precision nutrient management. Virginia also has a land conservation, farm preservation component.
Excuse me, Barbara. I think we really need to pause to figure out the sound issue because I don't think the group is really being able to get full benefit of great presentation. So let's just say maybe 10 and try to get it out.
That works. Do you want me to stay on the line?
Please.
Kristen, can I ask for you to hang up and I'm going to call you?
Sure.
Thank you.
Hey, Keith. Can you hear me, Keith? Maybe not.
Is it working any better now that Kristen's logged off?
Yes.
Okay,
working better
we're
now.
trying to work with her behind the scenes to get her back on.
Okay.
Barbara, what about me? Am I echoing still?
No, Keith, I was checking with you and there's no echo. I think that was the main issue, the phone call. So now I think there's no issues. Can you hear me well?
This is Ronald. I can hear you fine.
Ronald, okay, Ronald, apologize. Thank you for confirming.
How about me as your moderator? Can you hear me? I don't have the feedback in my mic now.
No, there's no feedback now either, so I'm glad to confirm that with you and Ronald. So hopefully she will be able to join via phone and then we take it from there.
Do you want to try to bring Kristen back up?
Do you want to jump on to my presentation while I try to get her up and going?
Well, it looks like we've got her slides are still up. Miss Evans' slides are still up.
We're having Kristen call back in, so just hold tight and we're going to try it one more time, then we'll go to Ron if we can't get her.
Thank you, Barbara.
Hey, this is Kristen calling in again. Can folks hear me without an echo?
Yes, we do.
Kristen, you
That's wonderful.
might sound good now.
What a victory. This is one of the many reasons I love partnering with NRCS, your patience and perseverance at solving problems. Thank you all very much for trying to work that out. So I guess let's just dive right back in. And I so apologize about all that technical issues. I'm very much looking forward to meeting in person where we won't have so many of these problems. So jumping back into the partnership role with NRCS, one of the things I think partners, Sustainable Chesapeake, Virginia Tech, a lot of other good partners can do is collaborate with NRCS to figure out where you all have technical assistance gaps that are holding up good conservation practices from happening, and that for whatever reason, sometimes it's a mystery, possibly even to you all, NRCS is not able to hire people to fill those gaps. And I know that's a big challenge with a lot of agencies, but especially here in Virginia. And, you know, we'd like to hire a lot more people than we're ever going to get funded for. But where can partners collaborate with NRCS to fill in some critical gaps in technical assistance? And for CNMPs, we learned that actually writing the CNMP was a barrier to delivering more financial assistance. As you all know, they take like 2 weeks each to write. So with RCPP funding, we were able to actually focus that request on bringing in additional dollars to hire folks that could help your district conservationists in the primary dairy regions get those plans written and get conservation on the ground. So for Maryland, was able to hire a CNMP writer on contract through the Western Maryland RC&D, and just recently, Shenandoah Valley Soil and Water Conservation District really stepped up to the plate and helped us out with hiring. And we just brought on a new staff person to the Soil and Water Conservation District who's going to be working with Corey Williams and his team to write CNMPs in the Valley. Her name is Megan Comfort, and maybe one day she will be on NRCS staff. So we'll see. Next slide, please. Are you on the TA gap slide for precision nutrient management?
Yes, we are.
Okay. So for precision nutrient management, I'm sure you all are well aware that precision nutrient management is not a practice that you can go out in the field and verify it's been implemented. It really relies on records. Not only that, but obviously Virginia NRCS staff don't write nutrient management plans. So we're really depending on the private sector there for implementing this part of the project. And that was a big goal of ours. And I'll talk a little bit about our partners in Maryland and Virginia and Delaware. But also for soil health, I mean, we just need more Chris Lawrences. If we could have more Chris Lawrences, we would be in good shape. And we're actually trying to do that to bring more integrated agronomy positions into the NRCS, under the NRCS umbrella, where we can, get all of the benefits of your all's oversight and knowledge, but with staff that are actually just recently in the process of being hired by Virginia Tech, but which will function effectively as NRCS staff. So really great opportunities for partners to help fill in some critical technical assistance gaps. Can you go to the next slide? The next slide is a screenshot from the Delaware Maryland 4R Alliance webpage. They actually inspired our FY18 RCPP projects because they were in the door early for the RCPP program and requested funding for precision nutrient management and were overwhelmed by demand on Delmarva for that funding. And so we said, okay, there's definitely an interest. Let's try to get some more money in the door. And they have been critical partners in Delaware and Maryland. And first of all, helping inform farmers and their precision nutrient management consultants about the funding, but also more importantly, helping educate consultants about their role in helping their clients access that enhanced 590 funding. It's not for every farmer. As I mentioned before, record keeping is really critical. And if you could go to the next slide. The role of the consultants here is that they really need to serve that bridge between NRCS staff and the farmer when it comes to certifying that those practices have been implemented. And so we just recently actually developed in partnership with Maryland NRCS kind of a guide for consultants, and I'm happy to share that with you all. But it's essentially educating consultants about, first of all, the role they need to play in helping provide those records to NRCS to show the practice has been implemented, but also identifying which one of their farmers are a good fit for this enhanced 590 practice, because it's not a good, not all programs are a good fit for every farmer. And consultants know their clients and can help guide the ones that would really benefit from the program to NRCS and maybe deter others for whom it's going to be a real challenge because, for example, they don't really like to keep records from participating. So next slide, please. So for financial assistance, these are the most recent numbers I have, but they might have changed a little bit. So far, we have helped about 11 farmers and 22 Maryland farmers with precision nutrient management and soil health projects. And approximately 15 farmers, we've helped them implement their CNMPs. So I'm really excited about the number of farmers we've been able to assist. And if you could go to the next slide, I want to come back to partner roles. So I mentioned technical assistance funding, but I also want to kind of highlight the Virginia Soil Health Coalition, because I think that's a really great example of NRCS leadership putting partners in a great position to support the NRCS's mission and goals. And so the Virginia Soil Health Coalition was founded by NRCS with Chris Lawrence's leadership. I think it was about 8 years ago. And 2 years ago, the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation put out a call for proposals from regional soil health partnerships. And because NRCS had laid the foundation for this group, Virginia was really well positioned to respond to that request for proposals, and secured $1 million to help build technical assistance and also to really position farmers who are doing soil health well and who are leaders in their community to serve as mentors to other farmers who are new to soil health practices like no-till and cover crops. So that's really exciting. And it's inspired a lot of conversations also around how do we create a culture where we're really supporting farmer innovation. And NRCS has some great tools for that too. The Conservation Innovation Grant Program is a classic one to help farmers who are innovative and want to try new things, help bear some of that financial risk. And we're really interested in continuing that conversation with NRCS about how we recognize and support farmers who are trying to be innovative and who are taking risks in trying something new. Can you go to slide 10, please? So the other thing that I think partners are doing really well with NRCS is making that connection between soil health and nutrient management planning. I mean, you all know well that we're dealing with a whole system here, and there are just so many opportunities in conversations about nutrient management to bring it back to soil health, and vice versa with soil health to make the case that, there's some really great nutrient management opportunities here too. And the bottom line is these practices, they've got to benefit the farm, financially. The farm has to be thriving and surviving if we're going to keep these good conservation practices on the ground. And we are all constantly learning. There's some incredible innovation coming out of our land-grant universities with USDA ARS leadership, like the Alan Franzluber's work that Wade Thomason and Charlie White are leading, looking at potentially dialing back nitrogen fertilizer recommendations in fields where you have an active microbial population and high organic matter, and that nitrogen's just cycling. So lots of new opportunities to tie soil health practices to nutrient management recommendations and ultimately to increasing profit per acre. Next slide, please. So I want to spend a few minutes on lessons learned. And the obvious one, obviously, is coordination with NRCS. I think partners need to recognize that RCPP is fundamentally an NRCS program. And so coordinating at really every level with NRCS is critical. I mean, really, before you start talking with anyone else, you got to make sure that the state level folks and the district level in the area where you want to focus are engaged and from the very beginning in the project. But because these dollars come with a matching fund or leveraged fund requirement of 1-to-1, it's nearly impossible to do that without state agency help and support. And in fact, both of our projects were very inspired by state agencies. The idea to focus on nutrient management plans for our FY17 project came from DCR. So, you know, and the states have the cost share dollars that can help leverage those RCPP dollars for Virginia farmers. So they're really critical partners. But also conservation districts, and I should have put in here NGOs and other partners in your project focus area. Your projects are just going to be better when you have all the local experts involved in helping to frame it. And then the other key thing I wanted to point out to folks, we're a Chesapeake Bay focused organization, so we've applied under the critical conservation area for the Chesapeake Bay, but this really applies to anyone in Virginia. You can select a very large project area, but have within that area a focus area. And there's a couple benefits to doing that. One, it gives you a little bit more comfort that if you can't spend all the money that you've been secured in your focus area, that you have a much wider area to put those dollars on the ground. It also lets your state partners have a lot more flexibility about providing that cost share, because our project area is the whole Chesapeake Bay watershed of Virginia. Our focus areas are much narrower. So, and then the last, I think there's something in there twice. Go to the next slide, please, because this is an area where we need help, and I wanted to share that with you all. One of the things that we need to do better is outreach to historically underserved and beginning farmers, both in the planning of the project and in the implementation. And I've really struggled to do that, just to make those connections. And so that's just something that I wanted to share with you all, that we need to do better, and we welcome any feedback from your all's perspective about how to do that in the future and how to share that information with other partners that are looking to RCPP proposals in the future. And if we could go to slide 13, please. So looking forward, I wanted to share with all of you that National Fish and Wildlife Foundation right now has a funding proposal that's out. It's for their small watershed grant program. It funds implementation and technical assistance. This is something that your partners could apply for in an area. If you're working collaboratively with folks and there's an area that you guys are working on, you know, please make sure your partners know that this funding is available. It's a great complement to NRCS cost share and NRCS technical assistance, because it's nice sometimes to have a pot of money that you can be a little bit more flexible with in terms of, you know, being able to get a whole project on the ground. So I actually also serve on contract with NFWF as a field liaison, and I'm available to talk to anybody who has a project idea and who wants to know if it's a good fit for NFWF. So I've included my email on the last slide. Please feel free to give me a call, or, you know, share that with your partner if they want to explore that opportunity. We are also really interested, I mentioned earlier, trying to think about how to reward farmer conservation. And so one of the things we're looking at is, like, you know, is there an award program? And the Leopold Conservation Award comes to mind. That's often done in partnership with NRCS. So please look forward to hearing more from us about that. We're in the early phases of planning, but I just wanted to share with you that that's very much on our minds. And we're also very interested in expanding partnerships that facilitate collaborative efforts for conservation. And Kathy Holmes can tell you well, or anyone who's worked on the Smith Creek Partnership, that collaborative efforts take some time. There's administrative backbone support that a collaboration requires to be successful. I mean, somebody has to do the work to organize the meetings and make sure everybody's communicating and kind of serve as like an administrative assistant to the collaborative. And we'll just say we're very interested in facilitating this kind of thing and helping connect partners to financial resources. Like, you know, National Fish and Wildlife Foundation is very interested in supporting these. So if you have a potential budding collaborative in your area and you want to brainstorm about how to bolster it, strengthen it, so that, you know, you've got partners kind of lined up and working together, please let us know. We'd be happy to talk to you about that and see what resources might be available to support those efforts. So that's it. You can go to the last slide. It has my email address. Please feel free to follow up with any questions or recommendations. Would love to hear any thoughts you all might have. And again, it's been a pleasure to talk to you, and thank you so much for your patience.
Thank you, Kristen. We're not going to have time for questions right now, but we'll keep monitoring the chat. We need to move on to Ron Lambert, our second partnership showcase. And Keith, if you can do some intros, we'll get his presentation up.
Yes, I hope everybody can hear me fine. Ronald Lampert, he's a land protection specialist with the Nature Conservancy. Ron has been highly successful in raising funds and services over his career. He's raised close to $16 million worth of grants and services for his project. So we're real happy to have Ronald with us today. So Ronald, I hope you can come up and get on without much technical difficulties.
We sure will try. If my slideshow will come up, we'll try to go through this as briskly as possible. First, I'd like to say I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you all. And the RCPP project has really been a very exciting program in this area. A lot of the landowners are starting to talk about the program and a lot of interest. When we were first approached by NRCS to submit an application for this program, we decided we wanted to do something innovative, something out of the box, something a little bit different. And our first speaking with NRCS, there was a little pullback because it seemed like it was going to be very complicated, and I really thought it was going to be complicated, but we managed to simplify it a little bit to make things move a little bit simpler. Love to give shout out to the Soil and Water Conservation Districts in Virginia, as well as the TACD in Tennessee. Without them, there's no way that this project could have been as successful as it is. So even though they weren't direct project partners, they were very instrumental. The next slide, please. Our award was for $4.5 million, and with that, we had to come up with contributions of $7.2 million. We reached out to a lot of our partners. There was a lot of interest from a lot of agencies. We decided we wanted to go for the bi-state funding pool, Virginia and Tennessee. That included Lee, Russell, and Scott in Virginia, and Claiborne, Hancock counties in Tennessee. There's been a lot of NRCS staff that I've worked with over the years. And if I've left your name off of this list, I apologize for that. In addition to working with all these staff, there was 33 conservation partners or organizations that have directly worked on this project with us. Next slide. The reason we picked the Clinch Powell watershed is because historically there have been 18 endangered species that have lived in this area. There's over 43 mussel species that are still in existence. Historically, there was 55. There's 14 endangered mussels. 5 have become extinct. There's over 120 species of fish. And if you really look at the scope of where the at-risk fish and mussel species are in the United States, it lands squarely on southern Appalachia, right around the Tennessee River system, and especially the Clinch Powell watershed. Next slide, please. So we wanted to, as simplified project goals, we wanted to be able to offer financial opportunity to protect aquatic biodiversity in the Clinch and Powell rivers. We also decided we wanted to use some sort of a modeling system based on GIS to be able to help NRCS direct funding to those areas that have the greatest impact on aquatic biodiversity. And knowing the workload that NRCS has, we did not want to make something that was so tedious and so hard to deal with that it was non-usable. And then number 4, we had a lot of partners on this. And yes, herd is misspelled because I type the way that I talk. But we are herding cats is basically what my job entails. Next slide. This is the partners that are directly involved in this project. in some way or another. I was on the phone in the early stages with a lot of different organizations, a lot of different people. Even within the organizations themselves, you had to find the right person to be able to get the right information, to be able to incorporate into our planning and into our GIS modeling. Next slide. After the funding was secured, we then did a very brisk and thorough media campaign and outreach. We hit all the major networks in this area, radio and newspaper. We're in a very rural area, so there's not a lot of opportunities that way, but we also tried every opportunity to get on websites, Facebook, radio, and I spent a lot of time going out and speaking to different groups, the soil and water conservation districts, the extension agencies, and things of that nature. Next slide, please. So let's talk a little bit about the GIS modeling. What we decided we wanted to do is we wanted to identify priority aquatic habitat zones and a priority agricultural restoration areas. The aquatic habitat zones are those zones in which we know that there's threatened or endangered species, there's some sort of critical habitat, there's impaired streams, the areas that we have water quality data on that we know they are degrading or they're in some sort of need. The priority agricultural restoration areas, we looked at the soil types, the open area, the forested areas, and we tried to figure out exactly where most of the agriculture was taking place in the watershed, and then how the agricultural areas interacted with the aquatic habitats. Next slide. The next few slides are just some of the data that we incorporated into our GIS model. The priority aquatic habitat zones, those are the zones that known T&E species are in, the areas that they have historically been, and the areas that over the years have been a highlight for protection by a lot of the organizations that are our partners. The impaired streams, that comes from TMDLs, it comes from 303D lists, 305B list in Tennessee. Just anybody that had any kind of an impaired stream listing, we tried to incorporate it into our data. The next slide. This is the density of agriculture in the catchment. We looked at how much agriculture was taking place in different places. And I've seen the comment where some of the slides are blurry. That's mainly because we are using a lot of data and zoomed in very tightly on this stuff. So it gets clearer as we go on through, but right now it's just clear as mud. But then the density of agriculture, like I say, that's where the most of the agriculture is taking place in the 5 counties, and you can see the outline there. That's our project area, and the different colors are within our project area. Next slide. Also, we looked at sinkholes in the area or the karst topography. That was just another layer that we added into our mapping. Next slide. And this is basically the map that was generated. And in the initial stages, when I showed this to NRCS, they just kindly looked at me strange, and they didn't understand the map, mainly because I don't totally understand the map. There's a lot of data. There's a lot of information. There is a lot going on in this map right here. And we knew that if we delivered this map to the NRCS and we said to the local DCs, here's where we want to work, make it happen, then there would be some pushback on that. So we decided to simplify the whole ordeal, and we wanted to make everything clear to the DCs as well as clear to the farmers that we're going to be working with. Next slide. So the outlined area here are the 5 counties, and that is the priority area. As Kristen said, we actually did the same thing as she did. We picked a project area of the 5 counties, and then we picked a focused area within those 5 counties. And the shaded area within those 5 counties is those properties that ranked within the top 33% for both aquatic and agricultural use. So we know that anything that falls within that 33% or within that shaded area there is going to have the greatest impact on aquatic species. So when NRCS gets a application in the door, they first have to answer 3 questions. Does the land of the application, does it have existing water quality resources, and is the applicant willing to address them? We wanted to look at all the aquatic resource problems on the farm. So if the landowner was not willing to address all of them, then that disqualified them. Does the project include livestock exclusion from flowing streams, wetlands, or open bottom sinkholes? We decided very early on that sky ponds would not be eligible because in most cases they are not directly linked to the watershed. And is the project located within the RCPP focal area? And that's the shaded area above. No to any of these, and it's excluded. From there, they then pull up this data layer. They can look at a property and see if it's a very high priority, a medium priority, or a low priority. And that's done simply by looking at the color coding. If the property has 2 or 3 or multiple colors in it, we let them rank it as being the highest color. So do not think that this is actually the very best and the very worst in the watershed. This is the best of the best and the worst of the best, which is kind of hard to wrap your head around sometimes, but it's been working. So they look at this. The next map that they pull up, if you go to the next slide. So this is the agriculture restoration areas, and the next slide should be the aquatic restoration areas. And again, it's color coded. It's easy for the NRCS staff to be able to grade this out. Next slide, please. From there, we get into the actual questions. We divided our project up into primary, secondary, and tertiary BMPs. The primary BMPs are those that were highlighted out through the local working groups as being those BMPs that they most want to work on in the watershed. And then we went to the NRCS manual and we looked at how those BMPs affected our 2 primary resource concerns: inadequate habitat and water quality degradation. So this all comes from NRCS manual. And then we had 3 questions. Does the projects identified, do they go toward primary resource concerns in both of them, or just one of them, or none of them? So you get extra points if say like riparian herbaceous cover, it falls within, or it helps to correct inadequate habitat and water quality degradation. Next slide. The next slide is the other BMPs, the secondary BMPs, and the third. We did it this way because the other BMPs are BMPs that are not high on our list, but we wanted to include them in the list of BMPs that they could work on. So basically, only those BMPs in these 3 charts are eligible for funding through our program. Next slide. With that, we had the questions. the local questions, the state NRCS questions. And it is to be noted that in both of them, there's extra scoring goes to historically underserved, socially disadvantaged, or beginning farmers. So these landowners that are historically underserved, they do get extra points. On the Tennessee side, you'll notice there's no scoring points. That's because they're on a yes/no system, and the system attributes points in accordance to the answer to the question. And I wasn't able to dig deep enough into that before the talk to get those extra scoring points. Next slide. So when we got all this together, applications began to come in. NRCS was very involved, very excited. We didn't know how this whole thing was going to work. In the first year, we were able to allocate $1.8 million. That's over half of our budget. Landowner involvement was amazing. People just kept coming in the door, wanting to know more about the program, more about what they could do. And in year 2, we had 100% allocation. By year 3, we had most everything designed, and we were in the contracting stage on virtually everything in the construction phase. And we also were able to work with our partners to get our contributions highlighted and matched. So next slide, please. So after year 3, or where we're at right now, we have allocated the $3.4 million, which was for FA, financial assistance. The contributions through the grant was, or through the award, was $7.2 million. We've actually documented $8.3 million, and we're not to the end of the award cycle yet. So on-ground conservation completed in the 5 counties with help of the RCPP has been $11.7 million. That goes greatly to the work of NRCS and the soil and water conservation districts. Next slide, please. Here's what we've been able to accomplish: 801,000 feet of fencing, 386 water systems, 3,000 acres of critical area treatment, 287,000 square feet of heavy use area. 561 landowners in the 5 counties have participated in some way, and we've been able to enroll 33,000 acres in conservation. Next slide. So the lessons learned, we know that the Farm Bill programs can be a little hard for landowners to understand. And oftentimes they wait till they have a problem before they actually seek help. We decided to be proactive rather than reactive, going to the landowners and talk to them, about issues that they have. And landowners don't like to talk about conservation a lot of times, but they do like to talk about their bottom line. So we learned very early on that if you could tell a landowner how good water and not walking a half a mile to get water improves herd health and weight gain, then that improves their bottom line, which makes it easier for them to feed their families. Things of that nature, things that really care to the farmer, is what we talked about first, and which was the bottom line, how it improves farm production. Then we talk about conservation later on. That's kind of like backwards of the way we do things most of the time. And we also like to listen to the landowner. A lot of times the landowner knows what's going on, what needs to happen. They just often lack the technical abilities, and that's where NRCS and the Soil and Water Conservation Districts, as well as the Nature Conservancy, has stepped in. Next one, please. So through the success of this original award, we were able to apply for an additional $2 million, and we were awarded that in 2018, and we're in negotiations to get that finalized and the money flowing on that as well. Next slide. So this is my contact information. I know I breezed through this kind of quickly. There's a lot of information, but you know, without a diverse partnership that we have in the watershed, we know this would not have happened. And one thing that we've been able to do is we know NRCS staff, the local people, are so overwhelmed with workload sometimes that they're not able to meet with all the partners and get the good science that's backing up the great work that they are doing. So NRC or the Nature Conservancy has been able to step in and act as that bridge between the partners and the NRCS and be able to show the partners what great work NRCS is doing, and also show NRCS what great contributions to the environment that they are fulfilling through their BMP programs. So I just again want to thank everybody for the opportunity to speak. And if anybody has any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to me, and I'll be happy to talk with you more.
Thank you so much, Ronald. We appreciate you taking the time to be here with us today. But I'm going to quickly turn it to Jeremy Dalbert in the interest of time, where we've kind of eat up some of our time with the difficulties. But Jeremy comes to us from Pennsylvania, where he was raised on a brown Swiss dairy farm, and had quite a bit of experience as a herdsman, managing some large herds, dairy herds, and that is with Virginia Cooperative Extension as the dairy science expert. So, Jeremy, we're glad to have you with us today, and I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right, sounds good. Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
Okay, perfect. All right, and they're getting my slides up there. So I'm going to pivot a little bit from some technical things and some partner projects to talking about what you can do for yourself and what you can do for others, and specifically some stress management things. So I am the dairy extension agent up here in the Valley. I've been here for a little over 7 years now. I grew up on a dairy farm, managed dairy farms. So it's I'm never sure if I'm a retired dairy farmer or an ex-dairy farmer, or if it makes any difference. But so most of you are well aware the dairy industry has been struggling really for the last 6 years. We've lost a lot of farms in the state. In all that, about 2 years ago now, I went to training and got trained to do some farm stress seminars. You can go to the next slide. So we went to Michigan State to do the training, and just me and Cynthia Martell, who's the other dairy extension agent in the state. And we got trained to teach 2 classes. So, how did this happen? It was sort of one of the professors in dairy science came to us and said, "Hey, there's this program looks pretty good. Why don't you guys do it?" So that's how we got into talking about stress management, particularly farm stress management. There was a definite need. There was a hole in Virginia. Since then, there's a lot more awareness of it. There's a lot more people getting involved with it, statewide and nationwide. You can go to the next slide. Before we went to this class to learn how to teach these classes, we had to do a mental health first aid training, and I had never heard of this before I went to the class, but I highly recommend that everybody does mental health first aid. It's really just like first aid. It doesn't teach you to be a counselor. It just teaches you how to help somebody in an emergency and get them to more help when they need it. So it's similar to knowing first aid or CPR. You're not a doctor if you learn how to do CPR. You're just taught enough to know how to save somebody's life for a few minutes until they can get to the hospital and somebody can do more for them. Well, mental health first aid is really the same thing. You can go to the next slide. So the website's there, and I really encourage everybody to take this. It's an 8-hour class. It's a full day class, but it's something that I really think that everybody should take, just like first aid class. Everybody should take this mental health first aid. I don't teach it. We facilitated some classes with the sheriff's office here. Some community service board will do it. Some extension offices are coordinating it around the state. So the trainings are available. So again, I just encourage you to go to that website and see if you can find one. Next slide. So we got in the training, we got taught to train 2 different courses. This one here, Communicating with Farmers Under Stress, is actually a 4-hour course. It's a half-day course for people like you guys. And we've done quite a few of these, and hopefully we're going to do some more again here soon. I think we're going to try and set up a couple this spring and summer. They're in person, but they're really impactful and go into a lot of detail, a lot of scenarios, a lot of hands-on activities. So next slide. Weathering the Storm is the other one. This is an hour-long thing to help, directly for farmers to help them. Next slide. We'll try and go through some of these slides fairly quickly. So the situation is life is stressful. So I think everybody kind of knows that. So agriculture is one of the most hazardous industries. Many of you may be involved directly in agriculture, and if not, definitely indirectly in agriculture. Next slide. Next slide, we can skip that one.
You've got a large presentation, Jeremy. It's the system's having trouble catching up. You want to advance again?
Yeah, go ahead. So this one here, you should be seeing the Virginia net farm income. So this is just sort of demonstrates a lot of stresses are financial, or at least the beginning of a lot of stresses. So from 2011 to 2016, there was a 78% decline in net farm income in Virginia. This is an average of all farms. Obviously, some farms did better and some did worse. But you can see it's, this up and down and decrease over time. And as you can see from the next slide here, it's not limited to any one commodity. All commodities, dairy farms, beef farms, have been down over this time period. There's a lot of ups and downs. It looks like corn and soybeans may be having a good year this year. Some other commodities may be down this year, but over time, it's really been a struggle for a lot of farms. So what is stress? So stress is defined as a need or a demand that people confront that is perceived as burdensome or threatening and can lead to physical or mental health problems. So not all stress is bad, and I think that's really important for people to know. Our bodies are designed to feel stress, and it's not all bad. When we get excited about something like a wedding or a birth, we feel anticipation. This helps us get mentally and physically ready for the event. This stress is called eustress. It energizes us. It's what keeps us going during seeding and harvesting. So it really helps us get a lot of stuff done in a short amount of time. So it's not bad for us at all. And a lot of how we deal with stress is a lot about our perception of it. However, when we suffer from too much stress, and particularly over a long period of time, this is called distress. Prolonged distress can result in severe physical problems, emotional problems, or both. In many rural areas, a high percentage of visits to family physicians are due to stress-related illnesses. So just think for a second about some of the signs of stress in yourself. How do you respond to stress? Your body, your mind, and your actions. You can go to the next slide. So for your body, you might get headaches, stomach aches, back aches. You might have high blood pressure, high blood sugar. You might get racing heart. You might get nauseous. These are normal signs, and everybody reacts differently to stress. So it's just really important to understand how you handle stress. Because once you understand how you handle it in yourself, then you can help manage it. All right, next slide. So some stresses of the mind, you get anxious, angry, sad, bitter, depressed, or hopeless. These are all things that can be stresses of the mind. Again, it's the same way. Everybody handles stress a little bit differently. Next slide, please. So actions, do you sleep too much? Do you not sleep enough? You overeat or undereat? A lot of times people will react in extremes to stress. Do you use things like cigarettes, drugs, alcohol? You try and break things. If you get angry, yell, scream, you withdraw. You just don't want to be around anybody at all. Again, it's just sort of understanding how you yourself handle stress. So it's really important to really understand how you handle stress in different situations, and then you can manage it. Next slide, please. So what do you think are some of the common stressors for farms and their families? You can go to the next slide. So some of them are the weather. Right now, if you have cattle calving, maybe you got an extreme amount of mud out there and it's really difficult. You're just having a difficult time keeping calves alive. Large debt loads. I think hit the next button. Large debt loads are a lot of stress on a lot of people. This is something that seems to keep going up as the price of land goes up. Government regulations for some people are really stressful. For others, it's not really a problem. Machinery breakdown. This is something that could be chronic, or it could be something acute. It could be something where you have old machinery and they're always breaking down, or it could be something where you have something major once a year. Either way, it could be a stress. You could have your combine could break right as you have 10 acres of corn to combine, and your combine has a $10,000 repair coming. High interest rates. This is something that obviously isn't happening right now, but some of you who may be older may remember the interest rates of the 80s, and there's a good chance that in my lifetime we'll see that again sometime. Crop yields. Crop yield is a direct relationship on financial income and the ability to pay bills. Uncertainties related to crop yields, like managing pests, could increase stress. Livestock illnesses. This may be acute or chronic, could be an illness, something that could reoccur. It could just be a few animals, it could be the whole herd. Commodity prices fluctuate over time. Again, we saw the graphs a little bit ago where the commodity prices are going up and down, and a lot of times you have little control over that. And disagreements with family members, which sometimes can be the most stressful of anything. Go to the next slide. We'll just skip this video. There was a video here, which I can send you the link to it. It really just talks about how our bodies handle stress. It's on YouTube, so you can look it up. And like I said, I can send you that link. It really just talks specifically about how our bodies handle stress, and specifically about cortisol in our bodies. So cortisol is known as the stress hormone and is released in times of fear and stress. So it increases glucose in the bloodstream. It can motivate us to act. However, when cortisol levels remain elevated, perhaps due to chronic stress, this can have detrimental impacts on our health. Cortisol alters our immune system, suppresses digestive and reproductive systems, and suppresses growth processes. Cortisol changes our mood, fears, and motivation. Health problems associated with higher cortisol levels include heart disease, lowered immune system response, digestive problems, sleep problems, issues with memory and concentrations, weight gain, anxiety, depression, and lower life expectancy. Have you ever known somebody, a farmer or anybody that seems to be in really good health and at a relatively young age has a heart attack or a stroke? It could be due to chronic stress in their life and this constant cortisol in their bloodstream. Think about it as you have a jar of clear water, and when you're not under stress, you can see clearly. And you take another jar and you put something in there, put some dirt in the jar, shake it up, and when you get stressed, that cortisol gets in your bloodstream and you just don't see clearly, you don't think clearly, you're not making clear decisions. That's how cortisol works in our bloodstream. And again, this can be good. Our bodies are designed to do this. If you've ever been in a really high stress situation, you know, somebody is running into a dangerous situation to save somebody or to save an animal. This cortisol in the bloodstream is what makes people able to do that, where they may not have been able to do that otherwise. So this cortisol is really just part of our bodies, but over time, if we have too much in our system, it really has detrimental effects on our health. Next slide. So what are some effective coping strategies? So coping strategies for dealing with stress, what's in your toolbox? It's just like a tool in your toolbox. Every tool is designed to do a different job. So find the right coping strategy for you. So once you understand how you deal with stress or how your loved ones deal with stress, then you can come up with an effective coping strategy. Next slide. So this, the next 2 slides here are our whole lists of coping strategies. So it's really important to do things that work for you. Everybody affects everybody differently. Different things work for different people. What works for me might not work for my wife, and might not work for my child, and might not work for my neighbor. But there's something else that might work for them. So I was doing a workshop a while back, and one of the people in there said that about 6 months earlier, they were under a lot of stress, chronic stress, and they decided they were going to set their watch, and at noon every day, they were going to go for a 1 to 2 mile walk. So they weren't, you know, it wasn't heavy exercise, it was just walking just to de-stress. And they said after about a month of that, their child looked at them and said, boy, you're a lot better mood than you used to be in. So it really got this person thinking. It was just this one thing. They were deliberate about it. They did it every day. They set a little alarm on their watch, and they did it every day. And it just was enough of a difference that their family noticed their attitude about everything. So it can be really simple things that don't take a lot of time that can help you de-stress. I know I find myself slouching in chairs often, so just standing up, moving around, just stretching, little things like that can really de-stress you and clear your brain. So think about ways that you seek to manage stress. Again, this is different for everybody. Think about matching the strategy you will use to a particular need. So maybe the stress that your children cause you is different than the stress that your family causes or your animals cause you, and it's different than the stress that a coworker causes you. So how are you gonna, what tool are you gonna use in different situations? So we're gonna talk about 3 strategies for managing stress. Next slide. So the first one is self-talk. So be careful how you're talking to yourself because you are listening. So this means that to talk positively to yourself. So this slide here has got some things from a movie called Anger Management with Adam Sandler, and I thought a lot of them you know, just really went very well with this talk. They sort of had mantras. The anger sharks are swimming in my head. Things like that you could use. So talking positively to yourself, and have a phrase that you can say, a mantra, to help yourself that's positive, that you're always saying. You know, maybe if you're a religious person, maybe it's a quote from the Bible. Maybe it's just a quote from somebody that you really look up to. But make sure it's positive and repeat it over in your head a few times, and this can immediately de-stress you. All right, next slide. So how do you respond to stress? Do you try to control it? Do you try to manage it? Do you try to avoid it? Or do you try to blame it on everybody else? Again, this is just really important that you understand yourself. Do you get mad? Do you feel sad? Do you get busy? Some people work a lot when they're really stressed. Some people don't want to work at all and all they want to do is sleep. Everybody handles it a little bit differently. So pick 3 words. Again, pick 3 positive words. The body hears what the mind thinks, so choose your thoughts with purpose. Tell yourself that you can overcome any challenge. Try choosing 3 words to tell yourself to help maintain the mindset you want. So words like calm, capable, controlled. Basically just pick 3 words and say it over and over in your head anytime that you feel that you're getting angry or getting depressed. And this can be something, again, it doesn't take very long. It's something that you can do on your own. So the power of positive thinking. In a 30,000 person study about how we handle stress, there was a 43% increase in dying from stress, but only for those who reported being under stress and thinking stress was bad. So merely thinking stress was bad made stress worse on your health. So everybody handles stress differently. Some people like stress or like things that really just sort of, it's like a rush for them. If you think that stress is not bad, then there's less of a chance it's going to be detrimental to your health. So strategy number 2 is using your breath. So there's lots of breathing exercises that you can do on your own. You can go online and look some up. Sometimes it's just taking 2 or 3 deep breaths, just taking 30 seconds and just taking a few deep breaths to calm down. Again, the cortisol that gets in your bloodstream, taking deep breaths, thinking about something positive reduces this cortisol and helps you think clearly, helps you make better decisions. There's things like box breathing, where you're breathing in for 4 or 5 seconds and breathing out, just being really deliberate in your breathing. If you Google breathing exercises, you can look, there's a lot of different things. Find one of these that works for you. Again, this is something that you can do on your own. It can take less than a minute of your time, and anybody can do this to calm down in a stressful situation. So one of the strategies 3 is use acceptance. If you don't like something, change it. If you can't change it, change the way you think about it. Again, this is all about thinking positively about stuff. You can choose to change your attitude. You can change how you choose to handle a situation. So I saw this not too long ago, this BS. So breathe and smile. So there's some research out there that says if you're under a lot of stress and you simply take a deep breath and force yourself to put a smile on your face, it is actually physically more difficult to frown. So there's a lot of research being done on this kind of stuff to help people de-stress. And find what works for you. Everybody works a little bit differently, so find what works for you. So now we've talked a little bit about understanding stress in yourself. We've talked a little bit about some things that you can do on your own that take a little bit of time, but not a lot of time to help you de-stress. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about how to help somebody else that's under a lot of stress. If you want to, I'm seeing this empathy versus sympathy video. If you want to go ahead and play that would be fine.
I'm thinking we probably don't have time for that. Probably need to just move to the next one. I'm sorry.
Okay. I mean, this one's only 2 minutes, but yeah, that's fine. So this video here, the link is right there, and it's really about empathy versus sympathy. So if when you're trying to help somebody, it's important to have empathy and not sympathy. People don't want you to feel pity for them. And really the biggest takeaway from this is trying to get down on that person's level. Talk to them, talk about things you understand with them. If they're really in a in a lot of distress. You know, don't talk down to them. You got to get down on their level and talk to them. So if you walk on a farm and a farmer is, you know, you can tell they're really in a lot of distress at the moment. Don't be like, well, you did this wrong, you did that wrong, you should do this. Just really get down and listen to what they have to say. Maybe try and take their mind off of what's stressing them out, and really just try and get down on their level. So in the mental health first aid, there's five-step strategy to helping people that may be considering suicide. So one is to assess the risk for suicide or harm. Listen non-judgmentally, which can be difficult sometimes. Give reassurance and information. Encourage appropriate professional help. And encourage self-help and other support strategies. So you can't force somebody to go and see a professional, but you can ask them and you can help give them resources. So have the proper mindset when you're talking to them. Again, show empathy and not sympathy. Be open and honest with you when you're talking with them. Preserve the relationship. You don't want to do anything that's going to make this person not want to talk to you at all. So you want to try and be positive, but realistic at the same time. Create a safe space for them to talk to, and just listen. And develop a shared purpose. These are skills that they're difficult, and sometimes they take a lot of practice. So the active listening continuum is one thing to think about. Ask, probe, attend to what they're saying, restate what they said, paraphrase it back to them, summarize, and refrain from judgment. And sometimes you'll have to go back to the beginning of this. So you may ask and probe and attend, and then you're going to have to go back and ask again to get on the same level for everybody. Next slide, please. So if you get, if you step on somebody's farm, or maybe it's a family member or a coworker, and you really think that they're in a lot of distress, and maybe you think they're considering suicide. So what can you do? So first thing you can do is ask them. Are you considering suicide? Are you thinking of killing yourself? Research shows that asking directly does not increase the risk of suicide and may actually provide the person with relief that someone sees their struggle. There's a guy that jumped off the San Francisco Bridge a few years ago, and they did an interview of him. He survived somehow. One of the few people ever survived that. A few years later, they asked him. They just interviewed him or asked him questions about that. You know, he was there. He was attempting suicide, and he said he stood there for 2 hours and watched people walk by and was waiting for one person to stop and ask him how he was doing. So just simply asking people how they're doing, asking people if you can help them, listening to what their concerns are, really makes people that are in this situation, they're struggling and they think nobody sees their struggles, and usually they're happy that somebody understands that they're struggling. Some people don't want to ask this question because they don't know what to do if somebody says yes. If they say no, then that might be easy, but if they say yes, then what do you do? So if somebody does say yes, do not leave the person alone. Call for help or take them to a hospital or healthcare provider. You have to ask them if you can do this. You can't kidnap somebody and take them to the hospital, but you can ask them, hey, can I take you to the emergency room? Or can I take you to, maybe they have somebody that they are comfortable talking with, a family member or a good friend. Ask if you can call them to come over. Again, just showing empathy, getting down on their level, listening to what they have to say, trying to understand their problems. So here's some suicide warning signs. Talking or writing about suicide or death, feeling hopeless, trapped, burdened, giving away prized possessions, making plan, acquiring means. Almost everybody that's completed suicide has shown some type of warning sign ahead of time. They're not always obvious, but afterwards they were there. So here's just a few things, some warning signs that people might say, to a banker: if you foreclose, you'll see my obituary next week. You can go to the next slide. Doctor, is this enough medicine to kill somebody? I talked to somebody one time and they were asking me a lot of questions about their life insurance plan. If something happened to me, how am I going to use this plan? So there's just different ways that they can talk about it. So suicide prevention resources. This lifeline is for anybody that's contemplating suicide. It's also for anybody that wants to help somebody. So maybe you have somebody you work with that you don't know what to do. You can call this hotline just to talk to somebody to ask how you can help somebody. Next slide, please.
Hey, Jeremy, I think the rest of your slides are the resources. I think we're going to have to wrap up. Maybe we can provide that information later.
Okay. Yep, sounds good.
Apologize. We really appreciate everything you've shared with us, and you have a very detailed presentation, and we'll make sure that the team is able to see that. Keith, can you take us to lunch now?
Sure. Here we go. My microphone thing jumped around there. Yeah, we're going to take a 30-minute lunch break. There'll be a timer on that. And as you'll notice, when the screen comes up, there should be a questionnaire quiz that we were hoping everybody would take. And we're going to grade that. And there's going to be a friendly competition amongst the areas in Virginia to see who has the most in-depth knowledge according to the quiz. So anyway, so I think we'll start the timer now and enjoy your lunch, and we'll be everybody be back here right at 12. It might be a little bit, yeah, right around 12. Thank you.